Thank you, thank you. Thank you, guys. Welcome. Let's start it. So, thanks for come to this CTF. This is my last talk about GCP. I started this talk series in November last year, and as I promised from the beginning, the idea was create a GCP environment to test the skills. And more than skills is about how can we prepare in a real um, world scenario uh, to investigate an incident. So during the last 2 months, I created a GCP infrastructure using Terraform, using another open source tools. Yeah, and I learned a lot of GCP hacking because my role is defender, but to defend, I need to know how the attackers think and how they execute and which techniques. So I prepare a nice scenario. I'm very proud of this because have all the techniques that a threat actor can execute in a GCP environment. And part of the inspiration came from Mandiant article that was released a few weeks ago. Is this one? So this report from Mandian, if it's the first time that you see, I recommend go through this. So it's for any cloud provider. At the end, cloud forensics is mainly log analysis. We can go through memory analysis, virtual machine analysis, this analysis, but if we have good logs, we will solve any type of incident. So I like this article because contains different different techniques used by attackers and which logs do we have to enable to be able to respond to these incidents. We saw a lot of this during my previous talks, but yeah, this is a nice article and helps me to rebuild my lab and create another from zero. Yeah, it was a nice experience. Also, during creating this CTF, I learned how to, or I create my own ransomware that I use it to automate the encryption process in GCP buckets because in the first version it was like a manual attack, but I said no, I want to learn or improve my skills, so I made some scripts for the for all the attack path. I will be talking maybe in few months about this part, but today is just incident response. So let's talk about the incident. So this was this morning, 2-3 a.m. The product manager receives a call in the early hours in the morning because the platform that was published a few days ago is presenting massive failures. So this is the story of a product manager. He built a product in GCP using cloud functions, using virtual machine instances, BigQuery. He hired cloud engineer, a third-party company, to manage the infrastructure, but they never talk about security. And when you don't put the security controls, you will fail. So that's what happened here. So this morning, 5:15, once the product manager got access to the GCP account, he went to the buckets, to the Google Cloud storage, and he noticed that all the files were encrypted with the virus ransomware. So all the files encrypted and just a ransom node. Something about this environment, there's two main projects. You will discover those projects during the investigation, but both projects were affected. And something important that the product manager mentioned to us is that there was a sensitive file called ccards.txt. So these files contain credit cards from the customers of this solution. So a really bad practice. It was encrypted with the GCP custom keys, but the threat actor managed to steal some credentials and get access to this file. So one of the main concern is if this file was stolen, and yeah, because if it was stolen, we need to contact authorities and talk with our customers, and a lot of actions that we talked in the previous sessions. So yeah, this is take your notes because you will need notes to start your investigation. That's an important skill from forensic investigators. Okay, what else? So this file with the note contains this text. So all your files have been encrypted by the virus ransomware. To get your files back, send 5 bitcoins to this address. And we have an address here. So this is the ransom note. Yeah, it was discovered this morning at 5:15 a.m. Any other information that you need to solve this incident? You want to ask questions? Think that you received the call. You just receive a call and you need to attend the incident. What you will ask to the product manager? Okay, you can ask during the workshop. One of my tips when you start a digital forensic investigation is ask a lot of questions, like the name of the buckets, the name of the projects, how many projects, who has access to GCP. It was multi-factor authentication enforced. There's password policies, who had access to the environment, what is the regular access for the employees or providers to the GCP environment, because with that we can start to find anomalies and start our investigation. So we received the call, and yeah, the next step is sign a non-disclosure agreement with the customer, because maybe we'll have access to sensitive information, sign the contract, agree about our payment, and start the investigation. So what do we need? We need an account. So I create an account. You will see that maybe in the logs. That is my Gmail account, Daniel Rodriguez @gmail.com. So it's the only account with a Gmail domain in the GCP project. So actually we can access to the console. So I will give you some context about the GCP environment. So this is the two projects. The first is this called DFIR, and this is the project ID, Velvety broker, and a number. And the other is GCP Goat. And what I'm putting this is because a few days ago I found this amazing project called GCP Goat. So GCP Goat is, if you are interested in web application penetration testing, it's a good platform. So it's built with Terraform and use GCP. So it calls a damn vulnerable GCP infrastructure. So it's a nice project. It's oriented to exploit web vulnerabilities, but I like it because it's for defenders and attackers. So you just need a Google account, learn something about Terraform to deploy the infrastructure, and you will have virtual machines, VPCs, and a lot of resources to practice cloud security. So it's a nice way to learn GCP. And also, if you work in architecture, the Defenders section contains which controls you need to apply to your GCP environment to create a secure environment. So it's highly recommended. So let's go to the organization. No, we need to go here. So we have some accounts. So we have three main accounts. D. Rodriguez, 85bits.com. That is the product manager account. We have the cloud provider, that is webmaster at hotfix.net. Take note of this. And the last account is Daniel Rodriguez. That is my account. So I was the first responder. And this account was created to collect all the evidence. So if you see things with this, like getting data, it was just for forensic purpose. But any other thing with other accounts can be suspicious. So we see something here is the poor permissions that was assigned to the accounts, like high-level privilege for all the accounts. That's pretty bad, but it's pretty common in a lot of companies. Also, yeah, this is in this project and in the GCP code. We have the same accounts. We have some other accounts. We have some virtual machines. We have the virtual machines in the same zone. This is the internal IP address and the external IP address. Also, we have several buckets. So we go here, we go to buckets. We have several cloud buckets. And if we go, for example, here, this is empty. Let's go to the other project. So we go to customers. We can see that the files are completely encrypted. So there was 3 files, and all of them are encrypted with the virus extension. And here we have the ransom note. We can see the timestamp of the ransom note on the files. June 1st, 2023, 11:35. So this is US time. And we can see that the files were in public, so it was a private bucket. In the other project, we have some public buckets because it was to serve images or media to the web application. So this is not part of the CTF, but I will show you what should we do as first responders in these cases. Because, okay, we have this, but how can we collect the evidence. That's something that we need to prepare. So yeah, when a few years ago, when I had my first GCP forensic investigation, I say, okay, I will collect the logs from GCP. But how? Where should I store the logs? Which command should I execute? So it's an important thing. So the first thing is with my account. So the main recommendation is create incident response account. That's why I create an account for my Gmail account. And the condition to get access to GCP needs to be a Gmail account or a Google domain. Like if you buy your domain and you have Google email, you can use your email here. So we have here, and there's two options. The first, that is not my favorite, is use the log explorer in GCP. Yep. Yes. Oh yeah. Okay. Yes. Sorry. Let me just try to fix this. Yeah. Let me see if I can do that. Yes, we can do that. There you go. So yeah, let's go back here. So we should go to log explorer. And we can see all the logs here. We have few options. The first is create a pub-sub and send all the logs to a specific bucket. And the second is, my favorite, is just create open Cloud Shell and collect the logs using Cloud Shell. So I'll open Cloud Shell. So two important things. We need to collect the data of the projects, because if we run a command like to collect the logs, it will collect the logs just from a specific project. So this is the project, GCP code, and this is the ID project. So it will collect just the logs from that project, not from the other one. So this is something important, because it happens to me a few years ago. I start to work in the case. I say, okay, I found this in Google to collect the logs. So I just run the command. I collect the evidence. I start investigation. And when I was working, I forgot to run the command in the other projects. So it's super important. So there's yeah, just to be sure, I like to use this command, gcloud-config get value project, and we will get that the Cloud Shell is for this project. Another important thing, which is the date or the time zone in Cloud Shell. Super important, because imagine that I told you, yes, it was yesterday 11 USA time, but the logs are in USA time, or which zone this use. So let's execute the command date, and the time zone is UTC. So in the presentation, we talk about Swedish time, says. So yeah, just to think about it. And something that I like to do is just save the timestamp in a variable. And in that way, when I start to run my commands, I will create a timestamp of all the files that I'm collecting. So if I'm collecting the VPC flow logs, I will put a timestamp in the name of the file. In that way, I will know when was executed that command. So let's put this command here. So what I'm doing now is just saving the command date in a variable called current time. So I will just verify again. I will print the current time, that is this variable, and it's okay. So I will call this variable every time that I execute the log collection script or command. So how can we collect logs? The first thing is we need to check if we have the buckets for the logs. So there's a command, is gcloud. Let me just increase the zoom here. Can you see? Yeah, okay. So gcloud logging buckets list. Let's execute this. Let's authorize Cloud Shell. And we have two main buckets. The first is this called default, and the other is this called require. So we have 30 days of retention for the default bucket. Remember that almost all the information goes to the default bucket. So when we start a new GCP organization and projects, some logs, if we enable those logs, are coming to this folder. And this global, or this required, is 400 days of retention. So we'll start to collect the logs. There's a command is gcloud logging read. And with this, I will just we can read all the logs. So we have the logs, it's a JSON format. And why should we do this first? Just to know, to understand if they have logs. Remember that in GCP, all the logs are disabled by default. So here we have our logs. And now let's collect the logs. So I create this file. So this is the command that I'm using. So gcloud login read, and I don't want to collect all the logs. It's too much information. So I will just start to collect. Okay, if the incident was today or yesterday, let's collect from that day, few days before. So we will collect on a specific window. I don't want everything. It's possible, but for this case, it's not important. So I'm collecting on something here. This is the last day, and this is the first day, because I was making mistakes at the beginning with this command. So you see that this is May 30, sorry, until June 2. So until this morning, because we received the call at 5:45. So once we start the process, we select this timestamp. And also, I'm telling, put everything in a JSON file, in a JSON format. And this is the name. So I like to put the case name. The project, this is the project that is GCP code. Remember that we need to collect logs for each project. And also, I call my variable to put the timestamp in the name of the file. And additional, I create this, I put it in a JSON file. So I will just execute this file. It will take like 15-20 minutes to collect the data. But yeah, I already did have this morning. So let's open. Now, another way to open a new project is just, you can just go here. So I will open a new window and look like we have the other project, and we need to run the command here to collect those logs. So super important, collect the logs for each project. Yeah, I just have a folder here. Called GCP logs. And this is the files that I will provide to you. So you'll see that contains the name of the company, that is a GCP case, and project GCP Goat, the timestamp, and the other project called Velvety, and the timestamp. And you will see that the file here is JSON-L. Do you know why, or what is JSON-L, or what is the difference with JSON? No? So let's check this. I will stop this because it will take some time. So here I have JSON and JSON-L. So let's make a cut to this file. And I will count the number of lines. Yes?
Are we recording this?
Yep.
Okay. So just in sake of like watching it further, maybe we can also increase the font because it will not be visible.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Let me see. It's better now?
Well, it's bigger, but I'm not sure it's better.
Yeah.
Not if you want to see the rest of the screen.
How it looks?
No, it was okay for me even before.
Okay.
Just worrying about people who will watch it.
Yeah, it's difficult in the recording. Yeah, let's see. Because I have all these commands, and I will provide you this resource. Just let me share this. So in my GitHub repo, there's a project called Forensic Labs that I shared this morning in the Telegram channel. And here you can go to GCP, and there's a file called log collection. So it contains all these commands: the GC project, the date, put the variable, and how to export the files in a JSON. So you just need to copy and paste, and that's all. Okay, let's continue here. Okay, so now let's make this. So this is the JSON file. And the other is JSON-L. You can see the difference. So the difference is that if we open the JSON-L, We'll just say more r hat minus 2. It's difficult to see with this. Let me try again. Yeah, we have just 2 lines. So we can use Excel and just use the comma, and it's like a CSV file, but it's still a JSON file. But the normal JSON file is a multi-line file. So if we made the same, look what we have. So we cannot open this with Excel. So I like to use JSON files, but for this workshop, I will provide the JSON-L files. So you can use JQ, that is utility to read JSON files, or you can use Notepad or Notepad++ or PowerShell or Excel, whatever tool you want. Okay, so that's how we collect the logs. Next step in each investigation, or in every investigation, is to check the integrity of the files. So let's create a SHA-1 and I will do this for all the JSON.L. JSON.L. So we are calculating the hash, and we have the hash of these files. So when you start the CTF, you need to check that is the same hash. If not, that means that the log is not the same. That was tampered. Okay? It's possible to export to CSV? Yes, it's possible. There's a flag to do that. So instead to put here JSON, we can put CSV. But the problem is we need to specify the columns that we need to put in the CSV file. If we don't provide that, we will receive an error message. Let's try it. There you go. So we need to put all the columns, and we don't know all the columns are different logs. We have VPC logs, storage logs, GCL logs, project logs. So yeah, it's a lot of things. So that's why I don't export this to CSV. Okay, so we saw this. So important. The 2 files that I will provide you. And this is the data that we need to review today. It's not too much data. It's a small project, just 2 users and just a few virtual machines and some buckets. And we'll just review logs from 2 days. Imagine in a big company. Can be a lot of data. So I put this graphic to you just to see which kind of logs do we have here. So we have virtual machine logs, we have subnetwork logs, we have the buckets logs, cloud function, audits, all the APIs are audited, the service accounts are audited. Yeah, almost everything is audited in this project.